Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another design review, language completeness and consistency discussion for post version 13 Wolfram language. All right, we have a variety of miscellaneous topics here. So let's start off with lock returning dollar timed out.
Oh, I was muted. So yes, when we last discussed dollar timed out, we decided that it should be reserved for users and that generally system functions should return failure objects. And that was a discussion, I think, about 18 months ago. But then in the spring, we introduced WithLock, which returns dollar timed out. And so I am pointing out this contradiction and
I think it was a mistake that WithLock returns timed out. Does anybody disagree that that was a mistake?
Well, two things. One is dollar timed out was at that time documented, so I felt free to use it. And second, it's not really an error. I mean, a failure object, it signals that the time constraint that you set was reached. I mean, the default time constraint is infinity, so you never see it unless you are actually prepared to deal with it. So we need an easy way to discover that value. And we're not sure a failure object is...
Okay, so the way that this gets here is by things like confirm, looks for certain kinds of things, and it probably doesn't look for timed out, dollar timed out. Is that a true statement? Can somebody confirm or deny that?
I don't believe it looks for dollar timed out, but
Oh, there we go. It looks for these things.
Right. And certainly a failure to get a lock is a kind of failure, even if it's a timeout, right? So,
well, the question is, should confirm trigger on this failure by default? Because that's what this is. If we say it's a failure object, then one of the consequences of that is that confirm will trigger.
Right.
I mean, there are two good ways to signal this condition. One is to generate an exception, and then we could either throw an exception or we could return a failure object that could be subjected to confirm. Or the other way is to signal that with a special value, just like end of file would signal that you have reached the end of a file or so. So in any case, I mean, this will only appear in code where there is stuff around it that actually deals with that case, that detects the timeout and then maybe decide to do something else or to abandon the computation and so on.
Well, so basically what you're arguing for is there should be a third argument to WithLock that has the possibility of specifying the timeout condition.
Well, I mean, it's an option, right? I mean,
no, it's not an option. The time constraint.
Yes.
That's the time constraint.
Yes.
That's not saying if the time constraint is not met, then here's what you return.
Yes, I don't think we need that flexibility. I mean,
are you sure? Seems useful to me. I mean, it's a little weird that the third argument would only be used if there's an option setting for time constraint. But having the possibility...
Which third argument? Which third argument?
A third argument for what to return if the time constraint fails.
Yes.
Which would default to, let's say, dollar timed out, but could be something different.
Well, but if time constraint is an option, then it's kind of weird to have a third argument.
I know, that's what I just said. Right.
I mean, do we generally, for example, file operations, they don't give you a choice of whether to return an exception or return end of file or return a failure object. You kind of read the documentation and
then... What do they return? If you try and open a file that doesn't...
No, I'm not talking about errors. I'm talking about opening a file, reading one line after another until the file is exhausted, and then at the last time,
right? But that's an end condition. I mean, WithLock is trying to get a lock. If it failed, if it can't get a lock, it can't perform its operation. So I think that's a failure condition. I don't think that's analogous to end of file, right? Because you expect, right? People write loops while read doesn't equal end of file do stuff. People don't write things while I can't get a lock do stuff. They're like,
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
No, I'm pretty sure people do. I'm pretty sure that
Okay,
that
well,
is in fact.
yes, well, they do, but I don't think they would use a WithLock construction to do that, right? I mean, they would separately get a lock and then go in and do stuff, right? WithLock has both the body and the attempt to get the lock, which is why I think it's weird, right? Isn't that what WithLock
No,
does?
it's good because it's now atomic. And yeah, no, I mean I haven't been following the explicit objection to the symbol $timed out, but it's not obvious to me that I'm not willing to wait long enough is actually a failure.
Fair enough. That's a reasonable point. I mean, that argues that $timed out is okay. The question that still remains is, with all these functions that can fail with time constraints, what should be the return value when they fail with a time constraint? And should we give should we potentially have an option for what they return in the time constraint case? What does URL read return when it times out?
It returns a failure object, right? That's why we decided to not write the $timed out was only used, I think, in one place, which was maybe ping time. And, you know, and things like URL read and whatnot return failure objects. So, right, there are no examples because basically nothing was using it, which is part of what was thinking, okay, we'll just keep this around for users to use, but system functions should use failure objects.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it slightly harder, in Java, for example, when the analogous construct times out, what happens is an interrupted exception, which is, you know, a very specific kind of failure, you know, that's distinguished from a, oh no, something went wrong during the operation. You know, it's not failed to get the lock exception, it's just wasn't willing to wait long enough exception. So
I mean, I don't think we have cases where functions actually return or throw exceptions in.
yeah. So the analogy, right? So just because Java throws an exception doesn't mean that we have to.
No, I mean, it would have been nice
it's
if you
still
had
a failure
stability,
mode. It's
yeah.
not a, you know, special Sentinel return object.
I mean, is it feasible to have a very specific failure object that is easy to recognize? Because to me, it seems these failure objects are kind of nebulous and don't have, and I just need something that is always same queue to whatever I need to test. And so $timed out was kind of the most obvious choice.
I think this is okay. I think this is okay. I think we should leave it. I don't think we should change it. It's already in there. I don't think we should change it.
Okay, well, I mean, it's in there as an experimental function, so.
I see.
So.
Look, okay. Christopher isn't here, is he?
No.
Why don't we ask him, since he's worked a bunch on this confirm stuff and has thought about these different error conditions?
I can work on getting them.
Okay. Well, okay. Dan on our live stream is commenting, why not just use failures with standard tags like timed out? Well, that's what we would do if we used the failure object for this. The question is whether we want to start the cascade of things like confirm failing when WithLock returns a timeout by default. Okay, let's keep going here. CheckAll. What
Right.
even is this?
Well, there's the usage message. It's not documented. And I think it's a good thing that it's not documented, because I don't think it's quite right yet. But Roman
What
has
is it supposed to
suggested,
do?
well, the usage message is right there. It evaluates an exception, an expression, and applies applies a function which returns the evaluated expression plus held versions of any expressions generated, any exceptions.
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay, this is part of what general problem?
Okay, let me tell you why I use it and why I thought it would be useful. I use it as a kind of recursive call to the evaluator. So I want to evaluate some expression, but I have to guarantee that I always get back control after it evaluates. And at the moment, we don't have anything that doesn't let at least one of our many exceptions and so on escape. And so I use it for sending expressions to subkernel for parallel computing, because I need to make sure that they don't escape the wrapper and I get the result back. So I never look at these hold complete. I just always use CheckAll of expo comma hash ampersand just to get the stuff back, and I don't. And when you do recursive evaluation, any unhandled exception is an error, just like in our top level. So I don't really care about those. But of course, if you documented it, then it should do something sensible with these arguments if we want to keep it that way. So
Okay, well, hold on. So what are you really using it for?
As a recursive evaluator that is guaranteed to not escape, right?
Well, that's a completely crazy name for that. So guaranteed to not escape, as in there is no
whatever is inside, whatever expert may do, with the possible exception of quit. I get back control, and it doesn't.
I understand. So even if there's a throw, for example, the throw doesn't propagate through that.
Just like our top level, just like a top level eval.
Yeah, I understand. So, we have this concept of controlled evaluate, which is essentially a sandboxed evaluator. That's what you want. But you want a rather trivial version of the sandboxed evaluator.
I mean, I can live with anything if we have something better.
Right, but this is a hack. I mean, using CheckAll, which is intended for something completely different for that. The problem you're trying to solve, which is to have a sandboxed evaluator, is a perfectly sensible problem, and one that we should have a function for, right? That mimics the top level of the main loop. Right, that's what you're talking about, yes?
Yes.
Right, so I mean, I think that should be controlled evaluate, which we've planned, and I don't know what's happened to controlled evaluate. Does anybody know? Anybody?
I don't think so. I mean, other than the name, I don't know that we have any actual design of what this thing should do.
But we have things.
We have evaluation data. The cloud uses evaluation data, but that essentially tells you the time it took to evaluate something. It makes no effort to actually contain side effects.
Right, but the cloud
it does. It tells you messages. It tells you prints.
Yeah, but it's not fail-safe. I mean.
Oh, sure.
No, okay. Let's just guys. We don't have the right people in this meeting, but the cloud has a mechanism for doing controlled evaluate. That's how it works. That's how lots of things like APIs in the cloud work. Okay, and I think we should make that a top-level function with other things in the controlled evaluate, like can it access the file system and so on. And Roman doesn't care about those things. He just wants, don't let it throw out, don't let it throw things outside of itself, right?
Yes.
Well, I mean, what the cloud has is not controlled evaluate. I mean, they use the sandbox and they use evaluation data, each of which controls certain aspects. But
right, and they also use a couple of catch wrappers.
Right. And the sandbox is, once you activate the sandbox in the kernel, no right? No file operations can be performed, or only certain very restrictive, right? That's sort of a kernel-wide state. That's not.
I understand. So that's why I'm saying that the way it should work is Roman wants, the default controlled evaluate can just be controlled evaluate of expa, which simply evaluates expa, not allowing any throw-like escapes. Am I making sense? And then
Yes.
controlled evaluate where it says, I don't know, prevent file access or something. I'm not sure what the right terms are, but something like this should be
Right, but nothing like that exists.
Well,
I
the
mean,
first thing exists. The second thing doesn't exist.
right. And I mean,
the first thing exists, and it's basically a version of this CheckAll function, right?
sure. But I'm saying that, right, the second thing doesn't exist in any way that can be reused, right?
Okay, fine. Well, then the first one is already useful, right? And we build out into the second one over time, because the second one is useful. We're just not ready for it yet.
So where would I find that controlled evaluate?
But there isn't. It doesn't exist. I mean, it will
Okay.
be written using the same code, code path that CheckAll uses. See what I'm saying? Saying
Yes,
rename
yes.
that piece of
Okay.
functionality from
A
CheckAll.
sensibly designed CheckAll.
Right, that just does the thing you want and nothing
Yes.
more. Right, just does what you want. Now, what I think we should do is we should have a controlled evaluate that, for example, has memory constrained, arrow, whatever. Things like that should be possible. I don't know how they will work yet, and I don't know how the file access thing will work. But I think having this to do just the recursive main loop basically makes sense, and then we can look at what it would take to build out prevent file access. Does that make sense to people?
Yes. I mean, we have discussed these restriction languages multiple times, I think, and it's probably a major undertaking. But
well, except that we have pieces of that already. Although we are less interested as we get more containerized, we're less concerned about it, in the cloud and so on. But still, it's something that was supposed to be built.
It would also be great for testing, right?
Yes, that's true. I'm surprised QA doesn't have something like this.
Well, they probably just fire up a kernel and see what happens, right? You do a local submit.
Right. I think this is a good thing, and I think we should build it. But I think the first thing is just this, which is very straightforward, and it's just based on CheckAll. Okay, let's move on to the next item, unless anybody has further comments about this. But I would like to get this as a project that presumably is an ECE-like project. Okay, so if we can feed it to that group, that would be good.
Yep, got it.
Okay. All right, next up, temporary.
Well, before we go on, did Christopher join us? Or
We're still working on getting him. Not yet.
Okay, then drop that. Let's just move on. We'll do it another time.
right. So this was some idea that was discussed about temporary echo and progress indicators, and since none of the was discussed in an ILD meeting, and since none of the progress indicator people are in ILD, then this wants to be discussed here. So
right. So the concept. Do you understand the concept, Itai?
I'm not sure that I do.
Okay. So the concept is, you have a thing that is spewing out echoes. Okay. But really, what you want is to just have those echoes show up in either a great big blob in something that will be a temporary print, or as a kind of ticker tape that keeps on refreshing in a progress bar. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so this is, I don't understand the connection to a progress bar. I mean, echo is something that you put in to see,
I know. Question is, where is it displayed, right? So a generic echo just says, it's just displayed as a print cell, basically.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so now there's the possibility of echo temporary, which we don't have right now. An echo temporary does a print temporary so that it disappears when when you hit the main loop again.
Yep.
Okay, so then the other idea would be, so that means even if I've got 1,000 echoes, they all go blah, 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 they all, scroll up my own notebook, and then they
Sure.
all disappear when the next input line comes in, right?
Right.
Okay, so an alternative to that is, like a progress monitor, the echoes come in, and you could have an echo that says doing this, doing that, doing the other thing, and they show up like things in the progress bar show up as things that are replaced when the next item comes in. Does that make sense?
Okay. And so this is not something that is, so this is not connected to any actual progress indicator of the
That's
time.
correct. It's not about any, it is a user supplied indication of progress.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what that means until, I would assume that means it's a separate bar that would come up that would be somehow like you could have a wrapper that says capture all the echoes from inside this wrapper and put them into this sort of ticker tape like thing that is showing up as like a progress monitor.
Okay, and this would affect all echoes inside it. So echo would magically change its behavior, or
correct.
you'd need to use the temporary echo.
No. This is what the problem is. We don't want to have okay, here was the problem. I think it is a much better design. Instead of we've got many echoes, echo evaluation, echo label, echo timing, all these kinds of things. There's many echoes, okay? So rather than turning each echo into an echo temporary, the idea was to have a wrapper around the whole expression that says every echo that would have been echoed to the, this is a modern functional version of what in version 1 was change, whatever it was called, dollar, what is it called? I forget what it's called, dollar
urgent or dollar. There's dollar echo. There is a dollar echo, right? And dollar urgent, which I forget the exact difference between them, but.
Dollar echo is the thing that was intended for terminals that echoes the input line, I believe.
Oh yes, yes, that's right. And dollar urgent is the sort of, right? That's like the steader version, but you can redirect steader to what,
Yeah.
Right. You can redirect it wherever, and then you can.
Right. And so what I'm saying is this is a functional version of that says redirect everything in this block. Okay. So it would say, I don't know what the right name for this is, but it's a wrapper that says, it basically says redirect all, let's say, this is a very bad name, but let's say it's RedirectEcho rather, of Expa. That means during the evaluation of Expa, redirect this to, you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Echo control. Sounds like some kind of air traffic control concept.
Right. Yes, I would think like redirected echo would probably be.
But remember, we've got several different cases. We've got case 1 is make everything temporary, but have it be there. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Make the things temporary, but have them scroll off the page. And then the other case is make the kind of ticker tape thing. And I think there's even another case as well, which we don't have yet, which is like do something like put it in the footer here. There are other kinds of echoing that I can imagine, other kinds of places to put the echo.
Right. So like an attached cell at the bottom, you mean?
For example, yeah.
Yeah. Or I suppose at the top, right? That seems like a perfectly natural.
Right.
Let's.
Yeah. Right.
If you
Those
have
are
a
not
running evaluation.
What's that?
those are not orthogonal though. Yeah, you could have them in the, if you put them in a cell, you have the same issue. Do you replace or you keep adding them? Or
Right. Well, that's what this function has to control. I mean, is it a replacement or an addition type thing? Is it a continuous replacement? And one could even imagine a case where you want two of them kept and it keeps cycling through. Right, the main point is to have a wrapper that controls where the echoes go.
and that's good just for all the echo something functions. There's nothing
Yes.
else that
Yes.
you should cover.
That's correct.
Right.
It doesn't
So
have a
I
print.
guess, so let me ask Julio this question. I mean, let's focus just on the case of the ticker tape. Is this something that could be built using Evaluate with Progress or using pieces of Evaluate with Progress, or is this really its own thing that that Ian would need to roll with possibly with suggestions from you?
I don't see the connection. I mean, the connection is a wrapper around an evaluation, but that's like any other.
Right.
Unless we want to have some styling to put them in a similar panel, but that would be weird because it can be any expression, can be a long list or a word. And I think this is also would be one of those.
Have sort of echo styling, right? Right, that little orangey thing, or with an hourglass.
Look, I think it should be something that has a style reminiscent of the progress monitor bar style, but perhaps slightly different. But the main issue, look, the main thing is, and one question is, should this be generalized also to print?
Why not?
Would it be useful? What's that?
Why not?
Well, I mean, print is very much in the file operations world. I'm not sure that's really something we want to go to.
Well, and then there's CellPrint, which gets even more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Echo is the modern print in many ways, except it has this very nice feature that you can just wrap it, and the return value is what it printed. Whereas print has the feature that it can print multiple things, but the return value is null. And honestly, if we thought about that more carefully back in 1987 or something, we probably would have made the return value the expression itself, as Echo has. Probably, maybe not actually. Maybe
well,
not.
no, because then you couldn't have had the sequence form, and the sequence form is used a lot in print. I mean, I guess you could have made everybody use what was it? Sequence form, I guess, was the pre-row, but
yeah, it would have been a mess, right? So not obviously a design mistake, but okay, let's concentrate this on Echo then, and there's nothing else. Right. Okay.
My only concern with this is that the size of the expression will vary widely. Like an echo evaluation can be very big.
A what?
Echo evaluation. It can be big. You get some arguments in. It can be a long list. I don't know what people typically use Echo for, but
well, so what? I mean, okay. So listen, you're making an argument that this Echo control or whatever it's called should also have something that says auto shorten.
Not really, more than that we should have to think the design carefully, because this, like for example, adding that to a cell, how big we want that cell to be. Can it take half a notebook?
So it's a question of what the user wants. If the user says, I want to see everything that Echo produces, right? They're not going to want it shortened. But there's no reason we can't have something in Echo control or whatever it's called that that specifies make no echo longer than 100 characters, and then it will shorten it, which also may be just fine, depending on the use case.
Then we need probably to fix short before.
Well, that's something that should happen anyway. But okay. So the things we're doing here. Okay. So let's just understand. For Echo control or whatever it's called, do we have a better name than Echo control?
I like redirected echo. At least I like it better. I wouldn't go so far as saying it I like it, but I like that better, or maybe directed echo.
There was echo monitor. Another suggestion.
Do we have echo monitor? What? No, what?
There's just a
No, the problem with that is that suggests that we are monitoring the echoes, and what we're really doing is redirecting the echoes.
Right.
The thing that, okay, wait a minute. We also have quiet echo, right?
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So quiet echo is a version of something like this.
Right, and all the echoes inside of it disappear, right? So if you do echo at X, if you put echo in front of that XXX, then we should see nothing, right? If I remember this thing being proposed. I didn't remember it being implemented.
Wait a minute. Oh, that returned XXX. That's correct.
Yes.
But it didn't echo XXX.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is, so redirect echo makes sense along with quiet echo.
Yep.
That's a pretty sensible name then, because it really does say what you know, if you see, so you'd say redirect echo. Okay, the only thing which bothers me about redirect echo is there's no redirection if you're just making it temporary. It's in the same place.
Right.
It's
And
just made temporary.
well, I guess the other question is, are all the redirections temporary redirect, you know?
No, I think you should be able to redirect to a random other notebook if you want to. And have your echoes, you know, like have your, much like we have the console.
Yep. Right. So we don't want the name with temporary in it, and redirect is.
We neither want redirect nor temporary, really, because both of those, unless those are
maybe target echo.
well, echo target, but then.
Well, no.
But
you're targeting the echo. Yeah, but I guess that still doesn't catch the possibility of. Yeah,
it's not even target.
Julio's point that we're trying to control both where the echoes go and how new echoes are added, like what the actual echo behavior.
And whether it's temporary, whether it's, I mean, we're controlling. Okay.
Is it
location and the behavior?
Manage echo?
Okay. Yeah, well, something like that, except we know I don't have anything called manage.
Right.
Okay, so the things we're trying to control are, I mean, in a sense, okay, we're trying to control where does it go, where does it get printed, or possibly not even printed, or possibly accumulated. We're trying to control, is it temporary? Is it temporary, and you know, in the evaluation, in the main loop? And we're also trying to control how do multiple echoes, you know, multiple echoes work? Is it, you know, replace, add, etc.? And we're also trying to control constraints on the echo itself, e.g. short.
Yeah, that's a lot of things to pack into one word.
Well,
yeah, I'm just commenting on why we're not instantly coming up with a name. I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's a bad function. I'm just saying that makes it hard to come up with a good name.
Where should I store this?
This is something new, so
I've been
functional programming. Yeah,
but this is horrible. I mean, I'll store it here, but it's horrible. All right, what are some other words like manage, target, control? What else do we do where it's a wrapper like this? That
controlled echo, like controlled.
But the problem is that that suggests that it's not I mean, like quiet echo. Well, I mean, quiet could be an adjective, but I'm imagining that quiet there is more of a verb.
Mhm.
Where does it get printed? Let's see. How do multiple?
This thesaurus suggests dominate echo.
No. Is that the synonym for manage? That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, that was for control. Oh, there's supervise, which is maybe a little bit closer.
Yeah, but that's a crazy word. I mean, that's a harness, the echo harness, so to speak.
Right. It says, yeah.
This
Yeah,
really is. It's a wrapper of some kind. It is like a harness. It controls.
I'm not sure I actually like this, but the thesaurus for manage also suggests organize, which is in some sense what we're trying to do here. We're trying to organize the echoes, but
I don't know that.
Guided echo.
I'll write it down.
Chad is suggesting echo regulate.
Regulate. Yeah, Peter there on our live stream, echo regulate. The problem is, okay, so we've got quiet echo. The problem is, okay, we've got echo timing, echo evaluation, etc. Those are all the echoes that do things. This really, I think, should be verb echo. Its form should be something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What about something like transform echo?
That sounds very mathematical, but I understand the concept. Translate echo, but it isn't translate, it's something like that. Place echo. Actually,
filter echo, filter echo.
You're not really filtering them.
Echo placement is not absolutely terrible, perhaps. It isn't just the placement, though. It's also whether it's temporary or not. By the way, let's ask that question. I assume we want one function. So the way it's going to look, this function is, because what we ended up with the echoes is we said, well, you could have echo function with all kinds of arguments, but it's really convenient. And I use it all the time to just be able to say echo timing or echo evaluation, or whatever, and see, and just have that one thing that you could put in there. So perhaps we want more than one function here. I mean, maybe we want, this is a very bad name, but one of them is temporaryize the echoes, and then there can be see what we're going to want here. Okay, so look,
right, except yeah, I mean, I think the problem with the direction you're headed in right now is that they're not necessarily right. These are not necessarily orthogonal axes. Like
I know. That's what we had in the echo functions themselves, and what we did there was we have like echo label. You can both echo function and echo label. You can get the same functionality. They're both 3-argument functions, but they curry differently.
No,
right.
They're only operator forms.
Echo, well, I only use it. Okay, wait a minute. Echo function is an operator form, but what about an echo label?
Echo label is also an operator form.
Okay,
it's
fine.
The missing operator form for echo.
I see. So echo itself is just an operator, has only one operator form that is effectively the 1-argument form, because it can't do anything else as an operator form.
So echo
it's not really an operator
forms
form
are echo function and echo label. those two functions give you the different.
I see. Are the operator forms of the different arguments of echo.
Correct. Right, yes, and I'm making a slightly different point, which is, right, if you are going to place the echoes in a file or in the messages window, you can't make those temporary. Right, you can make it temporary.
I understand. But I'm just saying, okay, so look, here's a possibility. Let's imagine, this may be wrong, but let's just try. No. Okay, what I'm looking for here is the thing that temporaryizes things. There are really two cases here that are going to be common. One is you just want all the echoes to clean themselves up after the evaluation is finished. Right, that's case one. And case two is you want them to be sort of all on one line replacing each other. Okay, so let's imagine that we wanted functions, different functions for both of those two things, because both of those things are things you want to slap on an expression or slap off an expression. And the last thing you want to have to do, if you have a temporaryized echo, no, you see, that's not going to work, because you want an operator form where you can just stick it at the beginning of the expression with an @ sign and definitely not have to go chasing to the end of the expression to add some weird option to it.
But we could just use a different destination for the temporary form. If we had a destination argument, so you could say destination is a cell, or it's a temporary cell, or it's a notebook or a file. Or...
I know, but you don't want to do that, because you just want one word that you're going to slap around. You know, the use case is like quiet echo, is you've got this big thing, you put a bunch of echoes into it, and it's like, oh, I just don't want to see those echoes. That's just not, you know, put one thing at the front. Not, let me go and write code where there's a thing at the beginning, a thing at the end. This is interactive programming.
Yeah, well, right, but this thing is right. This thing is going to need to be hold all, and so it can't have an operator form. Right.
Okay,
because...
hold on. There's a question. Look. Okay, so what arguments does it have to have? Temporaryized echo, its whole. Okay, that's its generic form.
Right. And
okay,
it needs to be hold
much
first.
like echo function and echo label, we are probably going to want something that might be called echo control. Okay, so here's a possible idea. Okay. Echo control has a whole complicated set of specifications here, and it is a pure operator form that takes expa here. See what I'm saying?
But these are not going to work, right? You can't have an operator form, at least not if you want to catch all echoes, right? Because it'll
Unless echo control returned a function.
Oh, I suppose if echo control returned a pure function with hold attributes, then I suppose that might work.
But then it's not just a wrapper.
But it doesn't need to be just a wrapper. I never claimed it was just a wrapper. I claimed it just did what it should do.
Yeah, but this is super ugly. We never did that. I think the only place where we do it is in the resource, the function repository. There's some hack with the stack to be able to make them holding. I don't know if it's a thing we should propagate in the system, but that's the other possibility I am aware of.
But conceptually, would we like this? I think we would. I think this would be pretty nice, that you would give, what you would be able to do is you would be able to say, I've got this whole echo control thing I set. I mean, the alternative of saying echo control of expa comma arguments here is going to get pretty ugly pretty quickly.
I agree with you completely. It's the operator form is a perfect form for this kind of stuff that you want to plug at some point in the code. It's just that our evaluation mechanism doesn't play well with this.
Well, we should probably figure that out. But let's talk about, okay, so this would be the do everything version. Okay, then what are the simple names this is kind of the do everything. Then what are the simple names for the common cases? Okay, so what we want is the common cases are, output in a scroll, so to speak, but temporary, and output with replacement, output in a progress bar. I think those are the two common cases. Do you agree? I mean, these cases where you're redirecting the echoes to, someplace else, those are more exotic. Marco on live stream is commenting, why is echo temporary? What kind of cell does echo temporary? No, I'm sorry, does echo outputs to what kind of cell?
An echo cell.
Okay, fine. Yeah, okay. One day, by the way, we should replace those change times with date objects of some kind.
Personally, I think we should just eliminate those change times because they needlessly contribute to diff for no particularly good reason.
I find them very useful. Maybe there's a different way to handle them. I understand your objection as well. Let's put that issue on the docket for another time.
Okay.
I understand your point also. Okay, output on a scroll, but temporarily. What would we call that? Okay, the suggestion here from Dan, echo configuration. It's another possible name. Marco is commenting about channels. We actually have channels. Rather, they're not particularly widely used, although we use them for some purposes. We have a pretty good channels mechanism. Although that's an interesting possibility. I mean, in other words, could we output, is that a crazy thing to do? It's not a crazy thing to do. You could output, for example, to a logging server through a channel. I've never seen anybody do that. I'm sure we do that for some internal purposes, but I've not seen that in user code. Not that I see that much user code except my own. Right? I mean, this is, that's an interesting idea that might be a relevant place to send messages. Anybody want to
Although I think that just means we need, there needs to be some way of specifying a pure function in addition to sort of name strings of common operations. I don't think,
No, we're not going to do anything specifically for that. I mean, this would be basically a make sure there's a function to say what to do with the message, with the echo payload. Okay. So again, what would we call this? It's a wrapper that makes what's inside it.
Ephemeralize echo?
I don't think that's a word, but what do you do to make something temporary? And then what do you do to make, I mean, this would be, again, I think it's too whimsical.
Is the first one like temporary echo batch? Like all of the echoes in there are temporary together?
Well, we could also, because we're not using echo temporary, we could imagine, well, okay, that's a question. Do we also want echo temporary, which is the local echo being made temporary? If you're putting just one echo into your code, you might want echo temporary just as a single, a point temporary echo. The problem with echo temporary is we're not supporting echo function temporary, blah, 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 blah.
Which is the same problem we have with echo timing and echo evaluation.
That what? That we're not supporting that.
They don't have operator forms. So this thing where you have to like wrap your code in brackets and supply
Yeah, right.
additional arguments is
Right. Okay. So
sometimes
this
unavoidable with echo timing and echo evaluation.
And I
Right,
think
the
it's more
problem
or
is-
less, I think it's more or less right with temporary too, right? Because you need to still be there at the end to clean up after the evaluation has happened.
okay. So let me suggest this weird possibility. This is not a serious word, okay? But would something like this work? That doesn't really have a lot of advantage. Oh, yes, it does, because it has different, that's a point temporaryization, as opposed to, in other words, when does the block clear, right? So this one, clears only at the end of only at the main loop, right? As opposed to this kind of temporary echo of expa, which clears, presumably this clears clear on exit from the temporary, clear on exit from this function.
Well, I mean, I don't see how those can be different.
Well, so you could have one cell with multiple different temporary echoes, and when all of the echoes disappear would depend on which temporary echo they were wrapped in.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
Sure, but I don't see the difference between those two inputs, right? At the end of the day, you have a thing that's wrapping a single. I mean, even if we made the first one work by evaluating to a pure function withholding attributes, right? I mean, you base it right. The temporary echo lives with with the same scope relative to expr, so it would have to clean up when expr was done evaluating.
But it can have its own scope within, like, you could have each temporary echo would give a subscope within the main loop where you clear echoes.
I see, right. But I thought the point, yeah, I suppose, right. But you could do that just as easily by having multiple temporizes, right?
wait a second. Look, it seems to me there are two cases. If you are point temporizing an echo, the only possible scope for that is the main loop.
What do you mean the main loop? It's when you exit the function.
No, when you exit, when you reach, okay, what causes print temporary to clear? Answer, when you hit the main loop. Right, print temporary on input line 17 clears when output line 17 is generated, and not before. Right, it's global to the main loop. That's the way it works.
Oh, I guess yeah.
Okay, so that's the case, and that's a useful case, right? I don't know what it does with dialogues and things like that. That's more complicated, but I don't think it's that important. That's a useful case. The second useful case is it is a rapid temporaryization where you've got a big function that is going to be, your time-consuming function. For example, I can imagine mapping across 10 things and saying temporary echo, by the way, I would like to just make a pin a particular issue, which is what to do with echoes from parallel processes, and particularly what to do with this temporary echoing from parallel processes and how those get cleaned up. How does that work with a progress monitor when I have a parallel evaluate?
Poorly. Julio, and if Roman is still here, I mean, we have some support, but there are some issues. And there's at least one PR to fix one of those issues.
What was the question? Sorry,
How does progress monitoring work with parallel processes?
I guess it depends also on how the question is framed. Like, are you parallelizing a function that supports and has the of like video extract frame?
Yeah, right. So you say parallel table of 25 videos. Okay, you've got them running on 25 different cores, and they each have a progress monitor that they'd like to stick their hand up and wave their hand and say, "I've got this far in my evaluation." Can they do it? Do you see 25?
Well, I hope not.
Well, with the new changes to the targeting the proper cell, if they can reach the actually, I haven't tried that, but I can. In principle, they could print 25 progress bars. If each one of them, but it really depends on how the function is parallelized. Like, if it is just calling the same function 20 times, then it will probably spin 20 progress bars. There are functions that do have native support for parallelization, and
no, I understand that's different. I'm
talking
about you're calling parallel table, and a function called by the parallel table generates a progress monitor.
Yeah, that's
so, I mean, I think
need
that's
to look
okay.
at
You know,
with
in my,
Julio.
what's that?
So
I need to look at this with Julio, because I mean, I must admit
Yeah.
I've never tried this. That would
Okay,
be
but then
surprising.
I also never tried, but yeah.
my case, I think I have 157 cores hooked up right now. So that's going to, as soon as I get progress monitors from 157 cores, it's going to cover my screen.
Possibly. I mean, right now, the progress monitoring utility is not aware of being called inside a parallel evaluation. So it's
Okay,
not doing
this is a
anything
separate
different
issue.
than being normal.
Let's not get dragged into that issue. By the way, there's a
Yep.
suggestion from Ethan on our live stream, which I think is a very interesting suggestion, which I'm surprised we haven't thought of before, which is why not have a right-click menu that adds echo? Just like we have one here for, I mean, I use this iconize one all the time. In fact, I use
Have
it.
a right-click menu for
basically
what?
Everything else in this right-click menu put together.
Have a right-click menu for what?
Echo. Wrap echo around this thing.
Um,
You know, you select a piece of code here, you right-click, you press add echo.
I know that seems pretty darn specialized to me.
Why
Especially
specifically
given that you
echo?
can just do echo function at.
I think it's an interesting suggestion, which we should at least think about.
There are explorations around that sort of thing happening in the toolbar design.
Ah, that's a good place for it. That's a very good place for it.
Yeah,
Along
I think
with iconize. Yeah, that's a good place. Actually, now that you mention it, I remember this. Okay, so let's come back here. We had some other suggestions, and I need to go in a minute here. Transient echo. Now, the problem is we're using the word temporary for print temporary, so we're kind of a little bit cooked in on the temporary word rather than transient. Echo shell. Interesting. Trace. Ethan is asking, why doesn't monitor work automatically with table and do automatically? In other words, for parallel table, we've added the progress monitor. Why don't we do that for table? Interesting question. I mean, I think if we get these progress monitors shaken down enough, I don't see why we shouldn't add it.
Well, I'm sorry, what's the question?
Okay, parallel table in this version has an automatic progress monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know what the timeout is before, you know, it probably doesn't come up if it only takes 2 seconds or something. Rowan probably knows what that.
Yeah, it's 1 second.
Okay, fine. Okay, the question is, what about automatic progress monitoring for table?
Right. Well, I mean, that, I mean, I suppose in principle that could be done, right? That's going to be much more risky, right? Because the parallel code is already in top level, so it can run other top level stuff. I mean, if we're going to make every single table make extra loops through the evaluator, that's not good. So, I mean, we've started thinking a little bit about how to add progress indicators that are deep into C code, but it's not by any means something we're ready to show to the world.
Okay.
Also, we need to progress. Sorry, to go ahead with that idea from John of adding metadata about evaluation in on the link, because right now the query for evaluation cell is expensive, and there's no way we are adding that overhead to any C function.
Right.
You understand what I mean, Itai? Yeah.
Yeah. If every table requires an extra half second because it needs to call out to the front end, that's not
exactly.
What Ethan was suggesting is actually a better idea, which was not what I understood. He said, "This is what I get for not eating my lunch. I can't think properly." What he's suggesting is, why doesn't monitor, if you just give a one argument form of monitor, why doesn't it automatically monitor the, I don't know whether it's the nearest, in other words, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So a form where if you've got a table in there, just like you can say, echo the table, you could say monitor the table. That is a very good idea.
Yeah, I think we had this in early meetings when we never went around documenting the public form of the progress wrapper. But one idea was support specific heads, and I mean, if people like monitor, we can use monitor as a function.
Allows one to do with monitor what one does with echo, which is just insert it in code, remove it from code. This is a very good idea. I don't know.
Also make monitoring functional operations possible, right?
Say that again?
Well, it would make monitoring functional programming possible.
Yes, it would, because you could just say monitor of monitor
map
at
or something.
Map
yeah.
of whatever.
I can have a not particularly efficient prototype with this ready pretty soon, I think.
That would be great. This is a really good idea. Thank you, Ethan. It's a very good idea. I really like that idea. Okay, but this brings us back to what we need, I think, is we need the general echo controller function that allows one to do redirection and all kinds of things. Then we need the two monitor progress in the function repository being pointed to. Okay. Okay, and the other suggestion here from Craig is save the output of echoes to a data set. I mean, that's something which in the echo controller, that's something it's a possible destination. I agree. It will be more naturally a list, but that's a possible destination. Okay, so again, we've got several names here to work out. Okay, in a scroll but temporary, in a progress bar, and the overall control. Does that make sense?
In a progress bar, overall control, and
I said, look, one of them is the big scrolling collection, just like print temporary. So that name has to resonate with print temporary because it's going to basically do the same thing. And I really need to get going here.
All right. Well, we can pick that. Right. I mean, I still think we need there are details to be thought through, but we can pick this up another time.
Okay. Yes. I mean, there's several details there, but this has been useful. I mean, we want three names here. Okay.
Right. So ticker tape. Well, I mean, the obvious one for the temporary one is echo temporary. That behaves just like print temporary, only it echoes.
No, it doesn't. No, that's wrong. That would be a fourth thing. That is the local echo temporary. Okay. That's a different thing. This is a wrapper.
Oh, so you're okay. So you're saying we want everything, right? The big guy. All right.
The big wrapper, right? As opposed to the point echo that is supposed to be temporary. And I think maybe the right thing to do, I don't like this. I don't like this because echo function and echo label are both very useful. And we do not want to have echo function temporary, echo label temporary. So we need another way of doing that, of being able to take an echo label or echo function and somehow do something like this kind of wrapping. Okay, so we don't have to replicate functions there.
Something like echo cancellation.
That's funny. I mean, we should record that as a I don't know what I don't even know how to spell. How does cancellation is in American is spelled with 2 L's or 1 L?
2.
Okay, good. It's not many of those words don't double the letters in American English.
Well, well, it could be echo cleanup or cleanup echo.
Well, that could be this one here, but see, it's again, oh my gosh. Okay, requires more thought. We don't know right now. Okay, see you guys later. Thank you all. Thank you for folks on the live stream. I think I have another live stream coming up in a few minutes. Okay, see you all soon.